It's Black Tuesday. Everything is falling down. Sorry, I'm in the cafe right now and I'm like recording this, but so bear with me. You probably hear some happy background music, but ignore that. um, we're just gonna quickly take a look at Bitcoin and take a look at other altcoins and in relation to Bitcoin, and then we'll kind of analyze and see what's happening right now. But first off, um, I just wanted to go to CoinMarketCap and just show you guys it's totally red. Everything is red except for this. I mean, this is tied to the USD, so that kind of makes sense, right? But everything is down 30, 40, maybe even 50%. It's crazy. Um, but one thing to note here is that the Bitcoin dominance is significantly higher than it was or has been. It's almost at 37% right now. What that tells me is that Bitcoin is not falling down as fast as the rest of the market is falling down. Right? If you look at the entire crypto market cap right now, it's at 490 billion. Actually, let me hit the refresh button. Sorry, 483 billion, and it's dropping really, really fast right now. Um, Money is just leaving the crypto market. Um, Last night, late last night, there was a big drop, and they seem to have stabilized in the early morning. But right now in the afternoon, it seems like it's going to continue further down. Um, Bitcoin dominance now at 37%. Um, so Bitcoin, whatever happens to Bitcoin, the rest of the market will follow. A lot of people have been like, oh, with the recent, altcoins booming up and stuff like that, people are like, oh, Bitcoin has no significance, it has no value anymore. That is not true. That is not true. I think as long as cryptocurrency survives and continues to progress, Bitcoin will remain relevant. And the reason why is because it is now considered and has always been considered sort of the backing to cryptocurrency, almost like the gold to the US dollar, sort of, or any fiat currency, so to speak. Um, Bitcoin doesn't, uh, it's treated against every single pair, right? So, like, if you wanted to buy whatever coin, chances are you're going to have Bitcoin first, and then you can trade it into that, right? And if you wanted to sell, so and so coin, um, you're gonna have to sell it and buy back Bitcoin with that. Of course, you can do that with Ethereum, and in some cases Litecoin, and in rare cases Neo. But the majority of it is Bitcoin. So that means it can't go away. It can't not be significant or relevant for the matter. It will always be there. And I think now, as the entire market is dropping and falling really, really fast, we really see that, because when all else hits, the fan, all hell breaks loose. Um, People will hold on to Bitcoin more than they'll hold on to anything else, and this is true. I mean, if you even look at Ethereum, it's dropped almost 30% in the last 24 hours, whereas Bitcoin's only dropped about 25%, right? You look at Ripple, 40%. Bitcoin Cash, 30%. I mean, all of these, it's just crazy. Even Neo, even the prize Neo has dropped almost 38%. Um, Tron, yeah, when ish hits the fan, you can really see that the confidence as the last final stand would be in Bitcoin. That tells you that Bitcoin does have significance. So now we're gonna go and look at what's going on with Bitcoin. I know I got a bunch of things going on over here, but this is based off of my drawings from previous videos and what I've been analyzing. So if you've been keeping up with my previous videos, all of these will look pretty familiar, except with the orange box, the yellow box, maybe even the red box. But before, man, it's dropping real fast. If you didn't know what kind of triggered this recently, it is due to this. Um, So not only with the recent South Korea regulations and raid on their exchanges, and also okay, and also with China talking about increasing their being more strict on, wow, this is not, yeah, being more strict on um, their exchanges. They're also talking about banning um, mining. And I know that this is just, oh, how bad can this possibly be in combination with all the other bad news that has been coming out recently. This one is pretty bad. If you guys don't know how mining works, especially for Bitcoin, it miners sustain the entire Bitcoin network, right? So you take away the miners, there's there is no Bitcoin network. There's nothing. Um, so one thing to understand here is that China has the most miners in the world by far. Okay, granted that they do spread it across different countries like Switzerland or Hong Kong or other Asian countries, but predominantly it's in China. If they were to ban, if they were to, if the Chinese government were to impose a mining ban, all of Bitcoin, all of the miners for Bitcoin would have to either relocate or it would just go down. It would take a huge hit, and we're kind of seeing the precursor to that right now as it's dropping really really quickly. Um, yeah, like we hopefully they'll like this isn't just a this isn't actually gonna happen. Hopefully it'll just be like in September when they were talking about like, oh yeah, we're gonna ban exchanges, we're gonna ban all this stuff in China, and then a couple weeks later they're kind of like, oh, actually just kidding, we're not actually gonna go that far. Maybe this is just another scare to drive down Bitcoin prices. I don't know. If it is, well, they're doing a very good job at it. So this is speculation, right? Um, but as of right now, like I think the most important thing is all you guys want to know as traders. What should I do at this moment? Should I buy into the FUD? Should I sell? Should I panic sell? Should I minimize my loss and exit my positions? Um, you have to take into account every single little thing, and I'm going to try to run through all of these things because there's a ton, so that hopefully it will help you make the decision that that you're going to make um, much more easily. So it's a big deal that that China is trying to ban or talking about it, banning mining. Right? I mean, it's one thing to ban trading. Right? You can just trade in a different country. Trading is all online, anyways. Right? It's one thing to ban ICOs, right? Because ICOs will still pop up all around the world. Um, but the problem is if you ban mining, yet they have to physically relocate all the miners. Okay, that takes time, that takes money, that's it's not going to be smooth, um, and especially if it's in China, which they hold the most hashing power, the most probably the most miners by far. Um, yeah, so I would not take this lightly, but then again, um, they didn't actually ban it yet, right? So it might not actually happen. So take that into account as well. So anyways, coming back coming back to the charts. Um, so we know I drew kind of like a you know triangle wave right here, A B C D E. Um, I'm gonna delete some of actually no, I'll keep it. Originally I had this purple bullish trend line here, right? And as long as it continues to ride on that, which it did, you see multiple times, it was riding on this bullish trend line. But there was so much pressure from bad news lately that has been suppressing the price down so much. Eventually, it just broke. Every time it came to meet this trend line, I would say that the whales that hold a lot of Bitcoin, um, they're that's their wall. Like they just will not let the price go down below that because they've been bullish. But eventually they'll get to a point where they can't sustain it because the rest of the market, even regular traders like ourselves, um, have been pushing the price down. We just keep selling and selling and selling. That this wall will eventually break, which it did, and support doesn't hold anymore, and so it just drops. completely drops. I put this red box up as a danger zone because that's kind of like the last line of support zone before you can officially call this a bear market. Um, so last night it actually dipped right into the middle of this red zone, and then actually went further down below that into this orange zone. And this orange zone is another support zone. The yellow is another support zone, but they're very weak in my opinion. And given the current momentum, if you look at these volume bars right here, given the current bearish momentum, it is like Hulk right now versus like thin drywall on this orange and yellow. It will penetrate and break through this if this momentum continues. And it seems like it's doing so because it actually broke out of this orange box. As I, since I started recording this video, it just dipped into it, and now it's actually out of it, and we're looking at going into the yellow box now. Where I have actually see a strong support is actually in the 8,300 mark. This is Bitfinex charts, by the way. Again, I use Bitfinex because there's less deviations, but Coinbase price will reflect a little bit differently. I think Coinbase is a little bit higher in price, but the reason why I have this yellow support line here is because there is a gap here. Let's zoom in. There is a gap here. I think it's easier to see on the 4-hour time frame. Yeah. So when it was on its way, when Bitcoin was on its way up, and it's like its all-time high at like 8,000, right? And then it progressed and continued to make its way up to like 11 grand or something like that. This area here is when the news really started to go, what the heck is Bitcoin, and how is it like, like you start seeing like in regular news and all that stuff. The problem with this is that it never came back down to retest its resistance, right? There's resistance here. Imagine on its way up. There's resistance here, right? When it broke out of that, it never came back to retest that area, right? And in fact, it came down, but not enough. And then it started making its way up, doing its waves, and it just continued all the way up into its all-time high of just 20 grand. And then the most recent biggest drop, it came down to here, point A. It actually fulfilled a gap that's in the 11,000 area. I'm gonna see if I can show you real quick so that you understand what we're looking for here. Let's see, right there. Okay, so resistance, right? Resistance. And then it's very small, but when it went up, it never quite came back down to kind of retest this resistance zone right here. You know what? I'll draw a yellow box just so that it's clear. Right there. Oops. Okay. Resistance area, right? So then when it broke out of that, this becomes support. Never came back to dip into this again, right? And it just continued making its way up to the 20 grand mark. Oops. Then finally, when on its way down, it did hit that. It satisfied that. In fact, it actually satisfied a major fib level retracement, and then it progressed its way back up and did its thing, and it looked like it was actually going to be up, like bullish momentum, which it was. This area right here, right? Higher lows and higher highs relatively. And then after it got to this point right here, there were bad news after bad news after bad news continuing to suppress the Bitcoin price down. This major bullish trend line was holding very solidly. So we knew that there was something, the market was still bullish. But the moment it broke out of this and it came back down into this red area, that's when we're like, uh-oh, not so much bullish anymore. Now, if it quickly came back up, we can say that, okay, maybe that was just an anomaly, right? But it didn't. It lingered. It hovered. You can see it here. This was last night. It kind of just hovered here. and chilled and chilled and chilled, and then it continued to just drop, drop, drop. And now we're here, and actually it just touched the yellow box, 10,000 mark, and it's falling below that. This thing is going down to that 8 grand, like I'm telling you, right? And I'm glad I'm capturing this right now to tell you. Hopefully it's not too late because, yeah. So I have every single dark purple trend line that you see here is a trend line matching based on how bullish it is, right? So we know that this one is broken. I'm going to delete that. Okay. This one is broken. Though I would say that it's still relevant, so I'm not going to delete it yet. We might need it as a reference. And this is based off of November 12th, November 11th, November 13th, during that time, and up to now. But the one that we're probably most interested in is, let me go back to the 4-hour. The one we're probably most interested in is this one right here. Can I make this one thicker? It is the thickest. I'll change the color. Let's make this teal. Okay, or aqua color. So this one goes all the way back from September, mid-September, right? And it matches up with, November. And it continues on forward, right? So following this trend line, assuming this support trend line holds, and the 8,300 mark, which I'm talking about, the gap fill that's missing here, this is going to come down to satisfy this resistance retest, right? But it also tends to match up with this trend line as well. So with these two confidences added together, I'd say it's a likely scenario that it's going to come to this region here. And I will make this, actually I will use this, I'll just take this green box. It's likely it'll come to this region here and then hold, right? If it doesn't even hold this, then this thing might just free fall all the way down to like 5 grand. I don't think that that's likely, but I have this here just in case. Just to show you kind of the area where it could fall if it does not hold here. I really believe that this will hold. I'm not so sure if this yellow box will hold because, like I said, it's like the Hulk bashing through drywalls right now. Red, orange, yellow. It's finally going to come here to the green area. And it will be alright. So if you're wondering why I have A, B, C, D, E here, this was a triangle wave, assuming that it was a symmetrical triangle. Now that it's not really a symmetrical triangle, because I don't know how long C is going to go down, but let's assume let's play with this a little bit, right? So we can kind of understand and see what our options are and what we're looking at. Assuming that it does go down there, and that's a C mark, D would remain at major resistance, which is intact right here. This is minor resistance. I should probably make this thinner. There you go. And then E would be somewhere along this this major trend line as well. Okay. What that forms here is A, B, C, D, E. That almost looks like a descending wedge, right? I'll show you. See it? A giant descending wedge, right? So we can still say, if I stretch this out all the way, and here's the apex between this line and that pink line, you can say that with this descending wedge, it will, delete this, it technically is still, on the grand scheme of things, bullish, right? That's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. I'm going to get rid of this because maybe we don't really need it. Yeah, this minor trend line is still intact. So you can still say that overall it's still bullish. If you look at the daily, sorry for the background noise and music. So what you'll actually see forming here is, this is really interesting. A sort of descending triangle, right? That kind of looks like a flag pattern, because if you look at this momentum up, it's almost like vertical, almost completely vertical. That serves as the pole to a flagpole, and this almost looks like a flag, right? If that was the case, and this formation sticks and holds, by the end of this formation, we can expect a resuming of the previous momentum again. That's one perspective to look at and to take into account. Now, if that wasn't the case and this thing just continues to go down below, we're not looking at that formation anymore. Like, that would not be a pennant or a flag formation. This would just be the market crashing. So right now, probably the biggest interest is in this 8,000 region, right? This 8,000 region. And you look at my videos, even from, like from New Year's Eve, I think I mentioned this point, as well as the 11,000 area, and then I even talk about down here at the 4,900 area, which there's a tiny little gap. In fact, I'll actually show you. We'll scale in so that you can't say that I didn't tell you before. Let's put a line right there. So resistance point, right? Came down, went up, continued to go up, and it came down here, but it never quite went back to this yellow line where that resistance point was. It's very close, but it never did, right? And it just continued to go up, and we never saw it again. It never came anywhere close to this region again. People have asked me so many times, do I believe that Bitcoin will go down to 5,000 area? I do, but it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I don't know when, right? Just like the 8,000 region, I didn't expect that we might see it this time, and we might not even see it this time. It might very well just stop right there. So you're seeing a little rejection right there, and then Bitcoin will just start to recover. I don't know, but as traders, we have to, and investors, we have to weigh in the possibilities of every possible outcome that could happen, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So then it can help us make decisions based on what we find and what we discover, right? And so we have to weigh these things as possibilities. So I have the yellow line right there. I'm just going to leave that there, right? That's a possibility. That's very well a possibility. This major purple trend line, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if this will hold. There's not enough data, because this is old data, right, to show us whether, if the price comes below 8 grand, would it actually just hold here along this line, or would it actually come down to finally satisfy the retest in the 5,000 region? I don't know, but those are all possibilities, right? So every trend line, every support line, every zone that I have here, it's there for a reason, right? It's there for a reason, and this is just to show you the possibilities of what could happen. So yeah, so this correction, triangle wave correction, can still technically be all right. You can still follow it, as far as I know. I mean, it could very well just stop right there too. It'd still be a descending triangle, right? If it comes all the way down here, it's still a descending triangle. But that's Bitcoin, and yeah, still very relevant to cryptocurrency. It's not going to go away. I do believe that eventually this is going to become, like people have already been saying, it's going to be the gold of the digital currency, right? Like there's not going to be much use for it, but it will serve as a backing in the times when a market would crash. The most confidence will be and remain in Bitcoin. I do believe that. But I do want to talk about the next runner-up, which is Ethereum, really quickly. So even though everything is crashing and falling right now, there's something that I want to know about Ethereum, just so that it can help you guys, hopefully help you guys, decide on where you want to allocate your investments. Ethereum is very noteworthy because the last couple weeks or so, it's been on the rise. I can't believe right now I'm seeing under $1,000 for Ethereum, but it's been on such a huge rise. I think it even crossed over the 1,400 mark, and now it's like really, really, really cheap because there's no confidence in the entire market. This is a given, right? But I do want to talk about how Ethereum will probably be the first major player to introduce the proof of stake protocol. If you don't know what proof of stake is, I think this, honestly, if Bitcoin was based on proof of stake versus proof of work, there would not be a necessity for mining, right? People would just hold Bitcoin, and there would be less. This would not be a problem today. We would not be seeing such a massive decline, even if China issues a mining ban. Because first of all, if you're proof of stake, there's no mining necessary. You can look into it. I'm not gonna, you could probably Google it and go POW versus POS, proof of work versus proof of stake, and then, yeah, this first one will probably tell you, everything you need to know about proof of work versus proof of stake. So proof of work requires mining. Actually, this is a really great infographic. Yeah, proof of work. You mine for it, right? But it's got problems because you still got people who hold a lot of power, and I would say that there's still some degree of centralization. What is up with all of these? There's still some degree of centralization because people can still manipulate the market, such as the miners. Proof of stake, however, there's less of that, and you actually don't need machines, tons and tons of machines, to mine. You actually hold on to the coin. In this case, it would be Ethereum, and then you lock it up, right? And then you get paid the transaction fees. They call it miners here, but I think the official term would be called minters. So there wouldn't be miners anymore in the proof of work, but there would be minters in the proof of stake, where you lock up your Ethereum that you hold and you get paid a dividends, and those dividends are based on transaction fees on the network, right? That's less fluctuation because there isn't a lot of in and out, whales selling massively or buying massively, and things are more stable. That is the future, and Ethereum is going towards that route. I think with the new release of their Casper, if you're not up to date with Ethereum, their Casper protocol is going to be released very, very soon. Very, very soon. We don't know the exact date, but they had an alpha launched on New Year's Day, and that's what kind of like prompted the increase of Ethereum's price recently. And I would say that for the future, I'd have more faith in Ethereum as far as like profitability. And the reason why is because if you hold a lot of Ethereum right now, while it's relatively cheap, you're gonna own a majority. When you stake it, you're gonna be able to own a majority share, if you will, of the staking pool, and then that means you get paid more of the dividends that we were talking about. And that's probably why people were stocking up on Ethereum lately, and the price has been going up, is because they understand that, and that's what they want. Right now, everything is at a discount, right? Assuming that the market will reverse and come back up, everything is at a huge discount right now. Cheap, like really, really cheap, including Ethereum. So when Casper releases, I would expect a huge jump from Ethereum prices, because everyone's suddenly going to be researching and knowing, well, what is this Casper? So heads up, look into it, do your research. I don't know everything about it. I'm still learning too, but I think at least mentioning this for you guys will give you guys an advantage to get ahead of the game, because I think once Ethereum becomes or releases Casper through a hard fork, I think prices for Ethereum will go up, and in that moment you don't want to be buying Ethereum when the price is really high at a premium. You want to buy it at a discount. So prep yourself for that. Prepare for that. So that's what I want to talk about for Ethereum. But the last thing I wanted to talk about are some of the other altcoins that a correction was due, and with this current drop throughout the whole entire crypto market, it kind of fits their correction phase. And as long as they hold within their zones for buying, um, I think it's a great investment, because once this market recovers, they will most likely be the first ones to go into the green. In fact, like a lot into the green. So some of these I want to mention are, we'll start with a very very popular one like Tron, right? Okay. Um, let's take a look at the TRX chart. TRX to BTC. If you guys know me, I'm not too big of a fan of Tron, but I will say that it has made a ton of people some money, right? So let's look at this chart here. So you got Tron at like pennies, right? And then it started making its way up. Here I've already drew this out, but Elliott's wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, impulse up, ABC, correction, right? Another impulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where we started seeing like Tron was like 30 something cents, compared to like a penny or less than a penny when it first ICO'd. Then we saw a massive correction down here, A, B, and now we're at C, right? And so we're preparing for the next wave up. If the first wave up has already passed, and right now we're in the correction, second wave, the third wave is going to come, and we're looking at something possibly way higher than what we've ever seen before. Possibly. Now I drew here this purple trend line, right? This holds as support, and it has been holding as support for the longest time. I'm gonna go in the 4-hour time frame just so that we can see more details. Holding support there. From way back from more than a month ago till today, right? And right now we are at this area. We are at this. I'm gonna move this out of the way so you can see. We are at this trend line, right? If this holds, we're seeing a little bit of rejection right here. But if this trend line holds, that's why I boxed it up in green. This is a great buy zone, right? Because it's gonna bounce off of this, and it will be, if the market recovers, this will probably be one of the first ones that will recover and begin its third wave up, third wave of impulse waves up, and we're gonna see a new all-time high for Tron. Keep watching this, right? Right now it's at, I think, 433 satoshis, right? And that's right at the line. I think if it goes down below like 300 satoshis, I would consider this as a fail. Like this, it might take a while to recover from this, right? Like the whole market is just so bad right now. It's really hard to say, but I wanted to show you guys this so that you get an understanding of like, okay, what if all these news are just a bunch of FUD to cause the price to drop, and then it's going to recover like instantly in the next couple days? Where should I start looking first? This would be one of the places that you can start looking first, is in Tron. Another one I wanted to talk about, which is one of my faves, is ICX, Icon. So Icon, ever since its ICO, it's been forming this sort of trend line, right? And it's held this trend line in this region here, and then recently it went up pretty high, I think to like $12 or something like that, and then it began its correction. So following with this trend line, and following even with this blue line that I drew here. All right, well, first of all, I'm just gonna match it with resistance, right? So you see resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, right? Let's do it like that. Okay, that is the floor. That is like the ultimate floor. If it breaks below that, none of this matters because it's just going to go down. But as long as it's above that, it's pretty good. In fact, I would even put a line like right around that region and say that, there's a lot of rejection at that point. Rejection here, even rejection here, right? And it's still sort of holding this trend line. So adding to all these confluences, I'd say that if this holds, this green region right here is a great buy zone for ICX because the next potential up. I'm going to use fib extensions. We're looking at like 10,000, mid 10,000 to 11,000 satoshis, right? That's like double, almost. That's like that's almost double, not quite, from where its current price is, which is 6,000 satoshis approximately. Yeah, that's a very nice return on investment. So this is another one that that you should pay attention to and watch. And when the market starts to recover or at least stops dropping, pay attention to this. If this holds, this area right here holds, I personally think it's a great investment. People have been asking about NEO as well. Let's look at NEO. Let's look at BTC NEO to BTC. Okay, so I got a couple of trend lines going on here. I got one that's like, stretching all the way back from like last month, and the more recent uptrend here, which I will make dark purple. This one's sort of holding, right? I'll even make it tighter. This one is holding. So recently, it's been a surge of NEO from like $50 or $60 or so, all the way up to its all-time high of like just under $200, I think, and that was like yesterday. And it has dropped significantly. But this trend line here with the most recent surge is holding as well. I didn't realize it, but I guess I would even say that, and here's the 55-day EMA, 55-day moving average, exponential moving average. It almost looks like it just bounced right off that and came back up. Here, we'll go into 1 hour so you can see more details. It's holding, right? Let me just go back 4 hours. It's holding this, and it might just continue to bounce off of this trend line and go up. But the next major support area will be down here in this region. I actually thought that it will actually go down to this region here, because right now, let's see, it is extremely oversold. Extremely overbought. Extremely overbought. Right? Even the 4 hour, I think even in the 1 hour. Oh, 1 hour is actually coming down now. That's a good sign. Let's look at the 2 hour. Still overbought. Okay. So it may very well hold this, and it may consolidate riding this line little by little. It may. But again, it also is reflective on Bitcoin and the entire market. If things go south, it may just very well come down to this area. So then it allows you to see kind of like where your risk and your reward is. In fact, actually, I'll just draw that out for fun because a lot of people like NEO. So let's kind of do our target. Actually, I'm going to move this out for a bit. And we're going to do some fib extensions, right? So, correction right here. Came up to an all-time high, and now it came back down here. So we're looking at this region, this line right here, for a potential target, right? I don't know what that equates to in USD. That might be like $220 or something like that. I don't know. But in Satoshis, it's about 1,600,000 Satoshis, right? Let's move this back. Zoom in. Okay, so this green region here is technically, there's the price right there, right? Current price. We're not actually down the trend line, we're right there. So if you were to bought like right now, your potential risk, if it held this trend line here, your risk to reward ratio would be 3.5, right? So like, I actually think that's not bad. That's actually okay, because you can set your stop loss down, yeah, down here at the trend line, which is about 10%. But then you can also have a potentially 37% gain based on the current price right now. The downside is if you bought right now and this thing falls down to the next support zone, you're looking at a potential 37% loss, 30% gain, right? Half and half. The risk and reward ratio is 1, which is absolutely terrible, right? You don't want to ever like enter on that, even though you think, oh yeah, I could gain 37%, but you don't know how much further this thing is going to drop before it actually goes up there. So you always want to measure your risk as a trader. You have to be cautious of these things, just because you know that there's potential in the long term for growth, but you don't know when it will happen. So you also have to make sure that you manage your risks and you mitigate risks by looking at these things. So that's where NIO's at. Yeah, if this thing holds, this is not a bad entry right now, but I would even say wait it out, because if the market starts to recover, right? The market starts to recover. Let's say it gets back. Let's go on the top of this candle right here, and the profits there, and the loss could be there. Almost a 15% possibility of loss. Almost 29% gain. Risk to reward ratio is 2. That's also terrible. Never mind. That's not gonna be good. So in my opinion, I wouldn't enter right now. I would not. I probably want the dust to settle, get more data first, and then see where to go from there. I mean, if you miss out on the opportunity to profit, don't kill yourself for that, right? Because you calculated risk and you decided it wasn't worth the risk. There's always profits to be made. Always. There's always other opportunities, and I would not, like beat yourself up because you missed one opportunity, even if it is a big one. You can still make more. The goal is, like, can you continue practicing or continue trading by minimizing risk, mitigating risk, and so that you consistently earn profits, even though they're small, because that will carry you through for the long term. All right, I'm gonna do a couple more, and then I'll just end this video because it's been a long time going already. So Wabi is another one that I think is great scale. And the reason for that is because you have this trend line basically from when they ICO'd, and it's been riding that, right? Like bouncing off of it. It's been riding that, and right now we're here again, right at that trend line. So this bigger. I don't know why I have so many of these, but I'm gonna delete them. Oops. Delete. Okay, much more clear, right? Ton of trend lines, random ones. So it's right here, right now. Again, if this holds, just like ICX or just like TRX, that's a great region to buy. Awesome. Right, so that's another one to pay attention to. Let's do a couple more. Okay. TNT, Tyrion. This is not a very popular one, but I have to say that it holds very well, right? Like the yellow line right here is a major support line, right? Because resistance, here's support, and then we're coming back down support again, and it matches up with this major trend line up. If this region holds, another box. If that holds, this thing is gonna go back up and possibly make a new all-time high. Substratum. Ooh, this one seems to be. This one doesn't look too good right now. Yeah, this one doesn't look too good right now. I was being very aggressive with this trend line. To be conservative, it would actually be like right there. And we can clearly see that even though there's a lot of rejection, it has fallen well below that, right? Yeah, that doesn't look too good. Substratum might not be, in my opinion, the best to look into. But we'll see. We'll see. Still watch it, right? Because we're seeing a ton of rejection. So this could just be market fluctuation. This could be just some deviation off of price points. Nothing is ever perfect. You can't get absolutely accurate unless you're lucky. It's hard to get to the exact point. So that's why I always draw boxes, because it's a zone, right? Like it could be anywhere within this region. It's not just one single price point. Here's another big one that a lot of people like, WTC, Walton Coin. It reminds me a lot of VeChain, but apparently this has got a lot more popularity than VeChain does. And something to kind of see here is that it looks like a giant cup right now, right? And it looks like a handle is forming. By the way, this coin I don't think it's even in the top 50, and it's doing really well. If it makes it into top 50 or even top 25, it potentially can in the future later on down the road. We can see that this is going to go up a lot. Okay, so it's forming sort of a cup right now. It's finished that cup, and it's in the handle. The 55-day moving average EMA is still holding, and it's kind of just trickling downwards right now, holding its price point very well. Here's previous resistance. There's previous resistance. I'm going to draw it. There. Resistance, resistance, so that acts as support, right? And you can see very clearly that it's respecting that. It's still finding support there. If this thing holds, this may very well be the bottom. This area right here at 15,000 satoshis may very well be the bottom, and then we might even see it like consolidate, do something, maybe even ride this support line very closely, which will end up forming a descending wedge. And I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah. Right now it's a descending wedge. Even if it continues to ride this out a little bit, it'd still be a descending wedge, right? And after a descending wedge, it goes up. And adding to the confluence, because this is a cup and that's a handle being formed, it will skyrocket up. And usually how I measure where it will go for at the end of a cup and handle is at the very bottom of the handle. Let's assume that that's a yellow line at like 15,000 satoshis, to the very bottom of the cup, which is about 4,000 satoshis, right? So about 10,000 difference. It will go up about 10,000 satoshis. That's one way that, I mean, there are a lot of different methods that people use, a lot of different speculative methods, but that's one that I've heard of and I've seen actually happen quite a few times. Another way is to use fib extensions. So from the lowest point up to its all-time high, back down, let's say it's going to come down to the yellow line. So we're looking at 34,000-ish satoshis. That's actually not even the all-time high. That's the all-time high. 40,000 satoshis. You want to be conservative, 36,000. So somewhere in that region right here, I would say it's a possible target for when Walton Coin finishes this sort of descending triangle, holding support here, and then when it makes its next rally back up, this is what you're possibly looking at. So that's almost triple, 15,000 satoshis. double 2.5 times your return on investment. Um, quite possible. Again, these are all possibilities. Of course, if this support doesn't hold, the other possibility is that it just continues to go down to here, this region, like 4,000 and 5,000 area, because that would be the next major support. And that's quite a big loss, because that's about 60%, 60-70% decline. So you got to take into account all of these things and just be careful. OST is not looking too good either. But watch these. I think this video has been going long enough. We'll do one more because Ripple is number 3, and everyone wants to know what's going on with Ripple. Confidence is not in Ripple. Not likely. Yeah, this thing is going down a lot. I think it's finally found support right here. Right, and if it doesn't, we're looking at under $1, possibly like under 50 cents, 30-cent region. That's your next support. If this region doesn't hold, right now it's riding at about $1. Right, it's actually dipped down to like 85 cents. It might, next one down would be like 30 cents. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Let's go back to Bitcoin one last time, and then I'll just end the video and we'll kind of see where it's at. Dipped into the yellow, so quickly came back into the orange. It's not over. It's not over. I thought it was over when it dipped into the orange last night. See this candle here? It was in the red. It dipped into the orange and quickly came back up, remained in the red. And then obviously it hasn't stopped. It has done this, right? So that same pattern can very well repeat right now, and next, or for the rest of the day and until tomorrow morning. It could continue and then sit inside this yellow region. But like I said, this green area right here, this 8,000 area, that's a hot zone that I have been anticipating that it will come down to. I just didn't think it would be this soon. But given with all of the FUD and all of the bad news lately, it makes sense that was enough pressure and momentum to take it down there. On the grand scheme of things, though, if some people are like, okay, so what? What's the conclusion? Conclusion is, overall, I'm still hopeful in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Because these points, every time it comes down that far, that sharply, it only means that it's going to come back up that much higher, that much more quick, maybe not quickly, but that much higher. So coming down here is just going to reaffirm the fact that this thing is going to pass the all-time high of 20 grand. If it doesn't come down here and it just lingers on the top of like 17,000, 16,000, and it does that for months on end, I'd be like, I'm not so sure if Bitcoin is ever going to pass or even come close to 20 grand ever again, right? But with the decline, sharp declines like this, we know that it's going to come down to a certain point where people will now consider Bitcoin price cheap. And it will gather enough of a demand to really reverse the momentum and start a wave that will continue to progress up, and up, so long as there aren't any further bad news of bans and whatnot. But yeah, I think crypto is here to stay for the long run. So if you're the type of person that's like buy and hold, just don't look at it. don't pay any attention to anything. But if you're the type of person that's like me and you watch this every day and you're trading, you're looking for opportunities to scalp and make a little bit of profit. Hopefully this video covers enough to where it gives you enough info to kind of gauge where you're at and what you want to do. Yeah, trade safely. Bitcoin is completely oversold even on the 1 day. It's down here now. It's ready. I feel like it's even more ready than what I've been saying to go up. So just keep watching it, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for your time.